Welcome to Women in the Middle Entrepreneurs, the podcast that gives you an unfiltered behind-the-scenes look at what it's really like being a woman in the middle who's over 50 and following her entrepreneurial dreams. Grab a superhero cape, girlfriend, because you deserve one. I'm your host, Master Certified Life Coach and Midlife Mentor, Suzy Rosenstein, and I am excited to inspire you with interviews that feature all of this midlife amazingness. Let's go. Hey there, welcome back to the show. We have another really exciting interview ahead of us about someone who has created a writing, editing, and publishing business. Today, you're going to be meeting Lynn Smargis, a woman in the middle entrepreneur who's a ghostwriter and publisher and self-publishes her clients' books. Welcome to the show, Lynn. Thanks so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me, Suzy. I'm really excited to be here today on your show.
Me too. I just love talking about writing because so many midlife gals just really want to write. And so many things get in the way. So we'll be talking all about that. I know we're going to have a great conversation about your midlife entrepreneur story. We're going to be talking about your business and what's going really well, and also what midlife issues might be getting in your way to some extent and might be a little challenging for you in your life as well as being a business owner. So let's get things started. How old are you? How long have you been an entrepreneur? And what is it exactly that you do in the world? Take it away.
Thanks, Suzy. So I am 53. I think I have been an entrepreneur ever since I was 5 because I've had like lemonade stands and I've done garage table sales. When I was a little kid, I used to go around and rake leaves off my neighbors' lawns, all that stuff. I had a newspaper route back when we had newspaper routes.
Wow.
I had my first big, real adulting store when I was in my mid-20s. I had a health food store, and that was my first one. But my most recent one is my current publishing company. It's called Unicorn Publishing Company, but it's under my brand Write For You. And so I do ghostwriting, editing, publishing services for my clients. And so I've been doing that business for 8 years now. And what was your other question?
Just what it is you do in the world and anything interesting about your journey. So that's what you do. I do find your journey particularly fascinating because not everybody is motivated to be an entrepreneur. It takes courage, it takes creativity. And I'm just wondering, were your parents entrepreneurs? Where did you get
No, my parents were like the anti-entrepreneurs. They were actually just completely blue collar. My dad had a 9-to-5 job that he got laid off of at some point, probably at least twice when I was a kid. And it was tough growing up as a kid. And there was other things that were also really complicated for me growing up as a kid. But yeah, my dad's job, he was a book formatter. He was in a printing, and he did like book formatting and magazine formatting and all that stuff for a big printing company. And I remember him telling me growing up, he's like, yeah, you need to work like really hard for your money. And like, if you want more money, you have to work harder. And I'm thinking, no, that's not what I want to do. So I actually did I've got 6 college degrees. And that was not on purpose. But I ended up in education, and my degree I had was not in education. So then I had to get my education degree, a master's in education. And then different schools required different master's degrees. So then I ended up having to get a couple more different degrees. But anyway, I am more of an entrepreneur than a 9-to-5 job woman, because I like the freedom it gives me. I like the the flexibility and all that stuff. But then on the flip side, right, then you lose that consistency of that W-2 check, and then obviously no one's matching my 401k, and no one's paying for my medical benefits, which right now is like a huge issue for us. So there's a lot of different upsides and downsides, but I do prefer being an entrepreneur more than having a 9-to-5 job on most days.
Exactly. I know exactly what you mean. There's something about it that is just so exciting. And being a host of this particular podcast, where I'm just talking to so many women entrepreneurs our age, I just know that most of them aren't talking about retirement because they're so happy. It's such a happy group, even though there are challenges. Being in this cohort, I've met the most interesting people. Now, I'm wondering, because you've been an entrepreneur for so long, what was it that inspired you to go in this direction at this time of your life?
Yeah, so I was a teacher for a bit, so I have had some regular W-2 jobs in between my entrepreneur gigs. And At one point, I was a STEM teacher, so that's a science tech teacher, and I taught science and coding for middle school kids for over a decade. And then after I got out of that, I went into travel writing and really loved that. Was doing really well until 2020 when I lost like all my clients, almost all my clients in March of 2020, and then pivoted to content marketing. And then my content marketing clients were asking me to write their books. And then that's how I got into ghostwriting. And that's where like my sweet spot is. I found like I really love ghostwriting because I am most writers are introverts, Susie. I'm sure you probably know that, like most creatives.
Yeah.
But I'm one of those weird creatives and a writer who's an extrovert. And so I really love working with people in that capacity because most writers don't like ghostwriting because you do have to be like, you're working with someone's bucket list item. They're very emotional about it. They poured their time, like money, soul, heart into their book. And so, rightly so, people are, pretty emotional about their book projects. And so you have to know how to be like part, you're part psychologist, part counselor, part writer, part book coach, part. So there's a lot of facets to it. And so I think that's why a lot of introvert writers don't like to do ghostwriting is because of
Mm.
that aspect of it. It's not just writing a book for somebody. There's so many other pieces that are rolled into it, which I take very seriously in my job. And then not to mention the client confidentiality piece. And, there's a lot of other things. And so ghost writing, as far as a writing job, is probably one of the more difficult writing jobs that's out there. I think probably book editing is probably one of maybe the easier ones because you just go in there, you like edit someone's book. Of course, you got to get in your voice and style. Not to say it's completely easy because I also do book editing, but I do find that book editing related to ghostwriting is a much easier job because it's just more technical and it's less soft skill. And so you do have to have a good soft skill set to be a good ghostwriter. Because if you don't, you're going to make your clients really unhappy really fast. And I've talked to some people who have had not good experiences with ghostwriters. It's really sad. And, it's just, that it's just part of the job. Like you need to be an emotional support for your client sometimes. And it's just the way it works.
So interesting. And I guess also what you're saying is that it was your ability as an entrepreneur to pick up on trends and needs, and you were sensing a need that your clients needed more support with their book. So it's not like you said, I'm ready to be a ghostwriter. It just kind of emerged.
Yeah, it morphs into that. And the other need that I saw too, Susie, is that when I first got into ghostwriting, right? There's like we call trad publishing. It's traditional publishing, right? Like the big five, like people know Penguin, Random House. And then there's hybrid publishing, which is you have more creative control, but you're still going with a publisher, and there's somebody that still has some creative control over your stuff. And I thought there's nothing out there that someone can just self-publish their book with assistance from a publisher, but the publisher doesn't have the rights and isn't taking royalties from them. And so that's the model I created with my publishing company. So when I assist my clients with their book, I am literally walking them through, coaching them through the whole process from writing their book. If I start with just, writing their book, sometimes we start with editing, sometimes we start with formatting, wherever they are. But I just literally coach them and walk them through the process. So it's like a done with you so that my clients still have full creative control over their entire book cover, editing, the voice and tone, everything. But it's like having a publisher work with them. But I also, I don't have control over their Amazon account. I've heard so many horror stories of people. Just yesterday, I was talking to my voiceover artist from one of my books, and he was telling me about one of his clients. He did voiceovers for several of his books. And this guy was with a publisher. The publisher went under like overnight, never notified any of their clients. And the publisher had control over his client's Amazon platform with his 7 published books. And so it literally took this guy almost a year to get the rights back for his own book because the publisher went under and didn't notify anybody and didn't do anything to transfer ownership rights back to the authors. So, I mean, and that's one horror story I've heard. So, and not to put the fear of like, don't ever go with a publisher, but you have complete control over your stuff when it's self-published. So I always recommend to my clients, at least self-publish one of your books because A, you now know the process. So if you do want to go with a publisher, you know what to look for with red flags. So I always encourage self-publishing because I'm a creative, Suzy, you're a creative. I'm sure you know how it feels when someone's trying to tell you how to make your brand look or how to make your personal style look or your personal brand, right? Like I don't want someone telling me how to make my personal brand look. Like why would I do that to another creative? So that's why I created my publishing company, is to give other creatives that same support you would get from a publisher, but you have complete control over everything.
Fascinating. That's fascinating because, my experience of writing one book is that all I just wanted to do was to get the book done, and I didn't give any thought to marketing the book. So, because I worked in a book publishing department for a while for a hospital, I was very comfortable with as much as I was able to do and where my expertise was. But once it got to the marketing of the book, I hadn't even thought about it.
Yeah, and most authors don't. And to be honest, like most people don't like the marketing piece, right? Because the marketing piece isn't sexy. The marketing piece is a lot of work. So, like we say in the industry, once you get your book done, that's when the real work starts is the marketing. And so there's a lot of places out there that I recommend. Like there's a couple places I recommend for marketing because I vetted them and they're really good. And I can give my clients like a basic marketing plan. I can tell them like good places to market. Like one of the things I just told one of my guests on my Blue Book Blueprint episode is so that's when people come on, they ask me questions about writing and publishing. So she said, "Well, I'm doing book signings at Barnes and Noble like every month." And I said, "Okay." I'm like, "Well, this is what you want to do. Skip the Barnes and Noble, right? Because you're just getting the general public. What you want to do is you want to go to the expos and the conferences that have your avatar." So she writes dark romance fantasy. And so I'm like, go to like Comic Cons, go to like those types of conferences because you're going to have thousands of people that are interested in your book just because of the subject matter of the conference. I said, that's where you want to go. You're going to sell more books. You're going to get more popularity. You're going to get more people following your socials. I said, so it's not what you're doing. It's where you're doing it. Right. So that's what I was really gearing her towards. So those types of marketing things I can help my clients with, right? Like the basic stuff. But and then anything past that, I can refer them to different people. I can make up small marketing packages. But where my specialty really lies is just the ghostwriting and editing and getting people's books to a place where if they do want to pitch to a traditional or hybrid publisher, they can. But they don't I just want to I want to make my clients really confident in their book and in the self-publishing process and that they know that they did a great job in it.
Yeah, I'm feeling relieved right now. Like if I was looking for services like this, I'm like, oh, I get my hand held the best.
Yeah,
Love
because
when my
then
hand
my
is
client
held.
has complete control over their project.
Yeah, so good. Now, I know this all sounds like fun and games, but as an entrepreneur over 50, a lot of midlife shenanigans can come up and get in the way of the way you want to run your business on purpose. So, what are the kinds of things that have happened to you when you're trying to run your business?
Oh my gosh. I could probably give you a short list of what hasn't happened. So, like 5 years ago, and I'm sure a lot of your listeners can relate to this, I ended up being diagnosed with some fibroids, right? And they were pretty small. I will give you the short story of it. It basically morphed into a 4-year health like challenge where just in the past year, I've lost 11 weeks in bed, like in the past calendar year to these fibroids. Because when I finally had my hysterectomy this past May, because I was trying other, of course, first, all the doctors say, oh, just go into surgery. I had my OBGYN, who was a female, tell me, just get a hysterectomy. It's no big deal. Okay, first of all, any surgery is a big deal, right? Because you have
Yep.
that risk of anesthesia. Second of all, it's like, no, I would prefer to keep my female parts if I can, because they're kind of important to me. They do still function even though I've passed menopause. They're still there. They still do something. And so anyway, I did end up having to have a hysterectomy because I was so sick from them. And it was over a pound of tumors. And it was my uterus was 6 inches across. So it made me so sick. And then I also in the past couple of years started dealing with postmenopause symptoms because I've had perimenopause since my mid 30s. I'm one of those lucky people who got it early. And so I dealt with everything from like fatigue, and I still have frozen shoulder, to just like exhaustion, like dizziness. I mean, if you get the book Marie Claire Haver's The New Menopause, there's a whole list in the front of that book. And I'm so glad I read that, because I thought I was either A, crazy Susie, or B, dying, or both at the same time. And apparently a lot of other women that go through menopause feel the same way. And so,
Oh, definitely. And I had another guest on the other show, Women in the Middle. Her name was Andrea Donsky. If you're listening right now and want to look that one up too, and she has done a lot of research on menopause symptoms and perimenopause symptoms, and exactly what you're saying, that there's so many more symptoms
yeah.
that most of us are aware of, and it can answer so many questions once you have that information.
Right. I mean, who would have thought dizziness, right? And I'm thinking like, oh man, what's wrong with my head, right? Am I drinking enough water? Maybe I should drink more electrolytes. Like, so anyway, I opened the book, and in the page 4, there's like literally 30 symptoms I have from
Wow.
menopause. And one of them was really crazy. I've always had high cholesterol, but I'm Italian, and so it runs in my family. And my cholesterol went from 340, which has been since I was like 18, to 494. And I was like, that seems a little alarming to me now, like literally overnight. And so I asked my GP, he's super fabulous. I have a great GP. I said, could this be from menopause? Because it's literally the only thing that's changed in my life. He's like, I've never heard of that. I opened up the new menopause book, page 4, your cholesterol spikes. Oh my gosh. Who would have ever thought that's menopause? But there you go. Right. So like, it's kind of a joke in our house now, Susie. Like anytime I feel something wrong with me, I'm like, probably menopause. I just need more estrogen. I'm
Wow.
like the gal
So
from New York. It's probably just menopause. It just needs some more estrogen.
oh my gosh. So what did you do for 11 weeks? You lost 11 weeks in bed. How did you deal with your business?
So it wasn't all at once. So like it was like 2 weeks after my hysterectomy, like another week after another procedure I had done last year. So I didn't lose a lot of business, but I wasn't able to put more people in my pipeline. So that put a huge strain on my finances. And I was like, my husband was like, here, just have some money, because we have separate bank accounts. So he was lending me money so I could pay for well, not lending me, give me money so I could pay for my things, right, that I had. But yeah, to your point, it was, depression and anxiety and the financial strain. I mean, it was really, really hard. Like just in the past 4 or 5 months, I finally feel like I'm getting to the point where I'm hitting a stride again. And I'm still not like 100%, but I'm doing a lot better. And so I don't have that constant, like, my husband's like, you were just constantly sick, like all the time. And so
Wow.
I couldn't run my business while being sick all the time. And so my business took a big hit, as far as like I couldn't get out there and do, the client pipeline thing. I couldn't
Yeah.
create new things. Yeah. So I was just trying to get by with however I could, which isn't a great thing to do when you're in business. But the only other option I would have had was to quit my business. So I just, I did what I could until I was able to get through it.
Yeah. Wow. That's the reality, right? That's why I have this show, because there are so many things that get in the way. And, some people have big enough businesses where they've got other employees and they're able to manage projects differently. But I had a very stressful thing happen this year, and I couldn't do a lot of like, I could handle my clients, but anything extra, and I could handle the podcast, but anything extra, like just what you said, the marketing, any video work, anything extra, I just didn't have the bandwidth to do. So while I
Mm.
wasn't in bed, I just couldn't handle it emotionally, so something had to give, right? So I prioritized my clients and the
Yeah,
commitment to the podcast. But yeah, so it's a huge thing to experience in 11 weeks here and there with getting over surgery and everything. It's a lot. So you did it. Well
I
done.
did. Thank
Yeah,
you.
a
Yeah,
lot.
sometimes there were points in that journey where I was like, am I ever going to make it through? Like, I did
Yeah.
not think that I was thinking at several points, I might just have to apply for disability, because it was so hard to work.
Wow. Well, that's real. Thank you so much for sharing that. Have you noticed anything about feeling old or older in this space? You know, I I like to just say older woman because we are older women. We're older than
Mhm.
many people. We're not older than some, but we do start to self-identify a little bit with being wiser at this age, a lot of times in a corporate environment or in a professional capacity. So as an older woman, defined by you as an older woman, have you noticed anything that is affecting being an entrepreneur?
So, I haven't personally well, let me say this. So, what when I'm talking to people, a lot of times when I jump on calls with people, now more and more often, the people I'm talking to are my adult children age. And I'm like,
Right.
"You're not old enough to have a job." I'm like, "Oh, no, wait, they're 30. They're way old enough to
Oh
have a
my
job."
gosh, Lynn. I remember I have boys, young men in their late 20s and 30. And I remember, was it a couple of years ago, I hired somebody my oldest son's age. And I thought, wow, I was so freaked out by that. So I know what you're saying.
Yeah, and honestly, Susie, I think that almost freaks me out more than my age is, like, my kids' age because I'm like, "No, you're not 30, you were just nursing yesterday, you were just, like, in toddler diapers, how did you become 30? Like, that's not even possible, right?" Like, it's just
Right.
crazy. So, I
It
think
is.
that probably makes me feel older than anything else, but the other thing I tell people, Susie, is, like, it's not getting older that bothers me, it's the aging part. It's like I don't move like I used to, like, I have to color my hair now if I don't want gray. Like the little wrinkles and lines that pop up here and there that you can tell, like, you look at young people and I look at me and I'm not like comparing myself and saying I want to look like a young person, but you do notice these things getting older. And the thing about growing older gracefully is like it's like, yeah, it's like am I gonna challenge it and am I gonna hydrate my skin really well? Yeah, it's not like I'm not gonna do anything to help me age gracefully, but I'm also not gonna obsess over it, right? Like, it's gonna happen, like, whether I want it to or not. Like, no one's out there finding the fountain of youth and reversing our aging process in our bodies yet. So why am I even going to, like, freak out about it? I'm just gonna do what's in my control, right? Which is my actions and my mindset, and then I'm just gonna move forward from there. I also have the benefit of, like, my dad's side of the family has really amazing skin, and so we age really, like, slowly, and so I know I don't look my age too. So I know that benefits me because a lot of times when I'm talking to people, they never guess my age. And so I think that also when they do, they're like, "Oh, I actually had one kid tell me, "Susie, you're really cool for 53." I was like, "Thanks, I guess I'll take that as a compliment." So
It's weird because so many of us struggle with this idea that we're cool with our age and we're
mhm.
cool with aging. Yet we do, feel really good when somebody says you don't look your age, as if there's something wrong with your age and looking your age. Like, what are
Right.
these ideas even based on? Probably a cartoon that you saw when you were 10.
Exactly, and that's the other thing one of my good friends brings up, and she says that it's not about looking good for your age. It's either you look good or you don't look good, right?
Right.
Like, either you take care of yourself and you look good, or you don't take care of yourself and it shows, right? So a lot of these people who are looking for the quick fix are people who maybe don't want to do that consistent practice over and over and over again and or have the
Yeah.
mindset of like,
Or
"Okay,
maybe aren't even aware. I just remember it was while I was always already doing work in this space, a lot of mindfulness and a lot of, how do you want to show up as an older and wiser woman, that kind of stuff. And somebody said, "Oh my God, like I'm 62." They're like, "You don't look your age." And I got so happy. I noticed my body. I was just like, I felt kind of like a puffed up peacock. I'm like, look at me. Look at me not looking my age. And I'm always thinking, well, I'm so short. Short people don't look their age. I have these thoughts about it. It's not, it may or may not be true. Everybody's not the same. But I just thought, wow. And then I'm like, why am I so happy about this? What is wrong with rocking my age? What is wrong with looking the number of years that I am? Because it's completely subjective by the person who's viewing me. And it could be based on their own hangups. When I
yeah."
see somebody with a really flat stomach, I'm always like, oh my God, look at you. Because that's a weaker area on my body. But when I see somebody, I have really great legs. So I don't even notice other people's legs because I feel so confident in that area for myself.
Yeah, and so to your point, I had a tummy tuck 5 years ago, but it wa it and, my I had my both of my girls were really big. They were 8, 12, and 9 pounds, so I had a 4-inch separation in my stomach, And so every time I went somewhere, I literally looked pregnant. Like people were like, when are you due? When are you due? And and I looked at people, I'm like 22 years ago. And so my daughter, my youngest daughter, who is really sweet, she's like, well, mom, look at it this way. She's like, if someone really knew your age, they wouldn't be asking if you were pregnant because they knew you wouldn't be pregnant at like 49, most likely. I'm like, yeah, I get that, but still, right? But then I got the tummy tuck and it's so much better, but not just from like a physical standpoint. And I got my tummy tuck too, Susie. It's not like I wanted to look like somebody else. I just wanted my stomach back that, I didn't want people to ask me when I was due anymore. Like I was just over it. So I got my tummy tuck and obviously no one's asked me if I'm due anymore because I don't have that big bump. But the other thing that it's done is it's like physically, structurally helped me out. Like my back pain went away and like all
Wow.
this others. I had to learn how to re-walk for like 6 months after that because my stomach muscle was so weak that I had a whole different center of gravity over those 20 years. So it was, yeah, that was a whole journey. And that was something like I went to 5 different doctors. It took me a decade to decide. But when I pulled the trigger, I was like, dang sure I wanted to do it because it's not an easy process getting a tummy tuck. It's not like you jump
No.
out after a week. Like it takes months for you to get back like on your
Wow.
feet
Wow.
100%. But I did it not because I wanted to look like somebody else, but because I wanted to do it for me. And that's another thing. It's like if you're going to do something, don't do it for your spouse. Don't do it for your partner. Don't do it for your kids. If you're not doing it for you, you're not doing it for the right reasons.
Now, speaking of those kids, they better be grateful, man.
Well, what's funny? My youngest, when I told her I was deciding, like, go in to do the tummy tuck, she goes, Mom, you tell them it took me 9 months to make your stomach look like that. And they're going to put it back in like a few hours. And I'm not happy about that. So when I was on the operating table, I told everybody that and they just all cracked up laughing. I'm like, my daughter's complaining that you're putting my stomach back before she had, rearranged it for 9 months.
Oh my gosh. There's so many things, so many things. So, what would you say is the most surprising thing about being a woman over 50 and an entrepreneur?
Oh my gosh. I don't know. Let me think. The most surprising thing probably would be Um, just I don't know. I don't know if it's surprising or if it's just surprising because it's me, but like I'm a very high energy person. And so I used to be able to like after I got off work, go off and like do things and have a lot of energy and do it. And now it's like I finish work and I'm like, what TV show do I want to watch tonight? Do I really want to go to the gym? And so I used to have all the energy that I don't have anymore. And and I think that's probably my most surprise. It shouldn't be surprising to me, but
Yeah,
and I think
yeah. One of the things I encourage my clients to do is to look at their lives through the lens of age awareness. And it comes up in so many ways, but to really appreciate that it's not something negative to assess where you're at with your age and stage, but with your age, like your goals might be different, where you want to travel might be different, your ideal lifestyle might look differently, or even how long you want to work in a certain capacity. Maybe you want to switch it up. We don't need to make plans the way we used to when we were 25 to 30 and we're setting the agenda for the next 20 or 30 years. But now we can look at things so differently based on what's the most important thing for us now. And rest is definitely an
yes.
important thing for us now.
Yeah. And honestly, that's the thing is like I realize like I need to look at where I'm at like realistically, right? Like
Yeah.
realistically, like I've been through a lot of health challenges, going through postmenopause stuff still. Like my body's still adjusting to that. So you have to really give yourself some grace and be like, okay, yeah, like this makes sense why I'm tired after a full day of work because I'm not 25 anymore and I don't have all of that estrogen in my body anymore either. And
Right.
I don't have 3 hours a day to go to the gym because I have other responsibilities, And so anyway, but yeah, it's when you growing older, if you're not really realistic about it and you don't give yourself grace and you're not accepting of where you are and like just letting go of all of those other things that you've held on to for that long of a time, you'll drive yourself crazy.
Oh, yes, you absolutely can. So,
And
what would
yeah,
you say you're focusing on now? And I want to know in your business what you're focusing on and also in your personal life.
yeah. So in my business, what I'm focusing on right now is I am focusing on putting together more like resources and things for like prospects coming in. Like I'm developing like a general book marketing plan, and I'm making like a self-publishing checklist. So I'm doing all of those kind of things so that I can attract more prospects into my pipeline, and also to give more resources to people to show, what I can do for them, things like that. So I'm building that piece of my business. I'm also doing a regular event now that I am past a lot of my health challenges. It's called a virtual writing retreat. And so that's been really popular. And so only do that once a quarter. And that's to bring people in, to show people, like how I coach, like we do writing blocks, we get writing done. So that's what I'm working on the business side. On my personal side, what I'm working on is to really just like tune in like what I need to do on a daily basis to support myself, to support my health, to support my body, support my mental health, like, figure out how to do all of that and be a good partner and wife and blah, 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 and like get all the work done and bring home the bacon. I'm like, oh my God, like what
Blah,
else
blah,
is on
blah.
there?
I
Blah,
know.
blah, blah. The list goes on.
But
But like
what is something that you love to do? Like when you talk about the things that, it sounds like you were hinting at routine that
Mhm.
support a healthy morning routine or routine to really support you. But what do you love to do? Like in your note, I noticed you very briefly mentioned gardening and painting. Is that
Yeah.
something that you're trying to bring more of that into your life?
Yeah, so I've always done gardening, painting, I've always done a lot of creative things other than like writing in my life and things like that. And I love gardening and I love painting. And I also love like read like I'm trying to read more books now because I do a lot of like obviously reading client books because I read all day, but reading for fun. And at a few weeks ago, I went to Mexico for a week for a vacation, and my goal was to read 6 books. I read 4. And so I was really happy with that because that's the most books I've ever read in a week in my life, because typically I'll just
Wow.
sit there and do nothing. But I'm like, I want to read books this week. So I read 4 books in a week, which was really fun. But just like trying to get more of that, like figuring out how I can run my day so I have more energy to do those fun, creative things on the weekend. Because we all know, like when I actually just did a Substack on this yesterday. When you're stressed, when you're overworked, when you're tired, like you can't be creative because
Mm-mm.
you're just drained. And so I'm trying to figure out what's that balance for me of like, we're getting my work done during the week, doing all the things I need to do, but still having enough energy left on the weekend and at nights during the week to do something creative or fun or, anything
Love
like
that.
anything really. Yeah. But
So
yeah,
good. So
especially
good.
creative or fun.
Yes, I'm with you. I am with you. All right. Lynn, we've said a lot, we've done a lot, we talked about a lot. How can people best get in touch with you?
Yeah. So thank you for having me on, Suzy. I really appreciate it. So the best way to get in touch with me is to jump on my website, and that's writeforyou.me. It's WRITEFORYOU.me. And then you can hit me up on my contact form, and you can also hear me on my podcast, Publishing for Professionals.
Amazing. Thank you so much for taking the time from your day and sharing all of this. I really appreciate just how creative you've been, your track record of being an entrepreneur, and now how you're trying to have more jollies in your day when it comes to energy and more creativity. It's so good. And the self-publishing piece, helping your clients do that, offering that service as well, it's amazing. I totally love what you're doing. Thank you so much for coming on the show.
Well, thank you for having me, Suzy. I really appreciate it.
All right. That is all for now. If you're listening and loving what you hear, please like and subscribe. Reviews are great too and much appreciated. And if you're a woman in the middle who's 50 or over and an entrepreneur and would also like to come on the show, please go to www.midlifeinterviews.com and fill out an application. We'd love to have you on to share your story. Thanks so much for listening. It's never too late for you to put yourself on your agenda. I'm Suzy Rosenstein, and I'll talk to you again soon. Now, real quick, before we say goodbye, if you are connecting with the show and are finally ready to make some changes to regret-proof your life, I want to invite you to apply for the Women in the Middle Academy. It's my transformational midlife group coaching program to help you get clear about what's getting in your way so you can get on with the good stuff. Head over to www.womeninthemiddleacademy.com. Talk soon.